Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is John Viglotti, and on behalf of OTC Markets, as well as our co-host, Murdoch Capital Partners and TA Advisory, we're very pleased you joined us for our next presentation from Currie Rose Resources. And before I introduce our speaker, a few points to note. Please submit your questions in the question box to the left of the slides. If you're interested in scheduling a meeting with Currie Rose, please click on the Meetings tab found on the left navigation bar. You'll be able to view the company's availability and submit a meeting request. On a final note, all of today's presentations will be recorded and available for 24/7 replay. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome our next presenter. He's Michael Griffiths, President and Chief Executive Officer of Currie Rose Resources, which trades on the OTC markets under the symbol CUIRF and then on TSX under the symbol CUI. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, John, and thank you for the opportunity to bring what I believe is a compelling vanadium story to the public and particularly your investors. So thanks again, John, and I'd like to thank my team as well for putting this all together. So let's just talk about Currie Rose for a while, and what it is that I'm going to talk to you today is about the North Queensland Vanadium Project. North Queensland, of course, is in Australia, and what we have is a district scale, and it's an advanced stage project, and also the Queenslanders call it a world-class vanadium hub. Of course, I have to provide the forward-looking statement as required. Now, stepping right into the project, so why Currie Rose? First of all, I'd like to explain a little bit about Currie Rose. It has a proven track record with our geological understanding and everything, and we, as a team, have put a number of projects together over a long period of time. So a project like this is not something that we're new to, and I have a great deal of confidence in my team and myself that we can bring it all together. We acquired this project through two major Australian listed companies, one Chalice Mining and the other one Liontown Resources. And what we've been able to do is consolidate both their tenure into one company. And that gives us a lot of advantages because of the size of the project that we have. As I said, this is a district scale play. Now, when we inherited the project, it had about 80 million tonnes of 0.34% vanadium pentoxide, and since that time we've actually expanded the resource purely by adding another 30 drill holes to the resource to now a resource based on 61 million tonnes, which is in indicated, and a further 144 million tonnes that's in inferred. So roughly about 200 million tonnes of vanadium pentoxide at 0.3334. We have also had a preliminary metallurgical test work that we've inherited from Liontown, which was done in 2018, and I'll explain a bit more about that as we go through. And we also can add in that we've got great support from the Queensland government, who is building a common user facility, mainly for pilot plant size activity, and they're putting $10 million into that as we speak. And there's been a lot of work between all the companies working in the area to make sure that the facility that the government builds really is a common user facility that we can all take advantage of. So that's actually another positive thing for why Currie Rose. And finally, vanadium, of course, is probably a little bit of an unknown to many investors. Everyone knows about lithium. They carry it around in their pocket, in their cell phones, but no one knows a lot about vanadium. And I'm very pleased that the OTC has really taken it on itself to bring vanadium to the forefront. Vanadium is, of course, one of the critical minerals in not only Canada, the US, but also Australia. So there's actually quite a lot of emphasis and a lot of opportunity based on the fact that there's so much support from government. So it's a key battery metal. It's not something that's going to replace any of the other batteries. It's actually got a niche, which I will explain further as we go through, which I'm sure the other companies that you've been listening to about vanadium have also explained. So why vanadium? I'm not going to bore you with all of the boring details. I'm just going to tell you the really exciting stuff. First of all, we're focused on vanadium for batteries, for redox flow batteries. Now, why that? Why are we focused on that? Well, currently, most of the vanadium that the world produces is really for steel alloys, and the demand for that is still steady, if not an undersupply, which means that the demand for the batteries in redox flow batteries and for vanadium pentoxide is quite open, and there will be a shortage. So what's the beauty of vanadium in redox flow batteries? This is probably one of the most important parts of our presentation, in fact, and that's because one of the key things is that vanadium redox flow batteries allow surge capacity, which is something that the other batteries don't do. For example, at the end of a day, a whole bunch of people have stored their energy from their solar panels and from waves and from wind farms. And then all of a sudden, all of these air conditioners in California get turned on, and there's a huge requirement for battery at a surge capacity. Redox flow batteries can do that. The others can't. So that to me is one of the key winners for vanadium. Also, it's safe, it's non-flammable, and of course it can be recycled, which also makes it a lot better for the environment. And I can add into you today, another important note is that currently the vanadium price, as I have on the slide, is $9.60 a pound. Well, it's actually $9.90 a pound now. So it's steadily been going up now for about 3 or 4 months, and we're sitting at a price which is really quite attractive, particularly to new projects coming on like our own. North Queensland, what a wonderful place. This time of year it's a little bit wet because they have a wet season, but as you can see from the slide, fairly open ground, quite flat. There is a small hill in the background, but that's nothing to stop what we can do. And the other important thing to note here is we own this project 100%, which means that we haven't got to deal with any joint venture partners, option partners, or anyone else. We're really in it for 100%, and that's one of the advantages we have over many others. Looking at the North Queensland Vanadium project, let's start with the commodity itself. Again, it's on the critical minerals list, but we also have some zinc and some molybdenum credits, and there's also some opportunities potentially in aluminium, which is also part of the sediment, and our location. Now, from a location point of view, you can see from the map, we're right smack bang in the middle of Queensland, midway between the port of Townsville and the other mining centre at Mount Isa, which is a major base metal centre in Queensland. And from there, the infrastructure is substantial. There's a railway line which runs from Mount Isa all the way through to Townsville, and Richmond sitting right in the middle there, which is the town closest to our project. Richmond is about 450 kilometres east of Mount Isa, and Richmond is about 500 kilometres west of Townsville. So we're right there in the middle. It's, as an analogy, it's like the prairie country that you'd know from North America. It's very similar. The main land use for the region is cattle grazing with some small amounts of cropping, but absolutely the main work is in cattle. So what we're planning to add to the region is another level of employment and another level of land use which is currently not available. As you can see from that map also, there's a lot of red dots here. Those are all of our tenements, our mining permits. We have 7, and that That area is about 1,200 square kilometres, so we've got a big land package. It sits on private land, and we also don't have any issues with any native title claims at this point in time. And also, interestingly, Richmond, which is the small town just to the south, about 35 kilometres south of our mine site, is a small service town, mainly for the cattle industry. But there's also a main road which runs through there all the way through to Townsville. So we're well serviced by transport, which is one of the key drivers of a project such as this when we need to look at moving lots of tons of material. We have a resource, as I indicated in the introduction, that has about 61 million tonnes of indicated material and about 144 million tonnes of inferred. Interestingly, that and I'll go through this in a lot of detail in the slide itself, that's not based on a lot of drilling, because the consistency of the formation that we're sitting in is such that not a great deal of drilling is required, which means that this is not about drilling. This project's about processing, and we're a long way down the track to understand that already. We also have a number of drill targets, as indicated there. Flinders River, Runnymede, Silver Hills, all of them have got drill holes in them, some historic, some not so old, some from about 2019. But what is clear from that is such a great consistency of mineral throughout the whole province. And that you'll see from the next slide and the slides going forth is one of the key things as to why this is an important project in the vanadium space. Just looking at a regional view here, these are all of our permits, and as you can see, there are a couple of other companies, in particular one, which is called Richmond Vanadium Technology. They own the Lilyvale deposit and the other Rothbury deposit, and we're right next to that one there, and I'll give you a lot more information about that further in. And also you can see from this that all of that green that sticks out, that's the formation from within which the vanadium sits. It's called the Tulibec Formation, and it's consistently mineralized with vanadium of around about 0.3 to 0.35% all through the whole bed through there. So we've actually got about 70 plus kilometers of outcropping material that has not been fully tested. So our footprint is really quite small at this stage, and to actually make our resources a lot bigger, it's not actually a great big effort in drilling terms. So in regional terms, Cambridge resource, as I pointed out, is just down here. The Flinders project is further up to the top, and we've also got Runnymede, which sits in the middle. And then regionally, we've got Silver Hills, which is quite close to town. It's only about 20 kilometres out of Richmond. And we do have a tarmac or a bitumen road running all the way basically from Richmond for about 30 odd kilometres towards our deposit. And that means there's probably only about 5 or 6 kilometres of dirt road that we need to do something with in the future. Yes, that's probably about that there. And here we are. Here's the Cambridge vanadium deposit itself. The Cambridge deposit, as you can see on this map, we sit in the corner of our permit there. There's a watercourse to the east, which is closing off the mineralization in this case. And on that map, you can see all of the drilling that's been done. And just to reiterate the resource, again, we've got inferred and indicated roughly a couple of 100 million tonnes of material. What's important to note here is that the preliminary metallurgical work, it showed that it's all oxide, which it is. It's shallow, so our deposit is basically from surface down to about 30 metres. It's soft, it's friable. We have a low strip ratio, sort of 1 to 1-ish. We will have to take some off stockpile for rehabilitation. It's suitable for pre-concentration, which is most important, and that would be the start, how we would start off operations. It is then amenable to acid leaching, which gives us the opportunity to beneficiate it past the concentrate stage. And then there is potential for high purity alumina to come off this as well. We have a metallurgical study underway, which is based on all of the drilling that was done by Liontown back in 2019. And we're using that as a citer because we've got a bigger program planned for early next quarter. And that program will be to drill a number of diamond drill holes that will do a number of things. Firstly, it will provide us with a lot of metallurgical sample over the entire deposit. That's the first thing. We will use PQ size, which will also give us the opportunity to do a lot more test work on the mineralogy and a few of the other things we need to do. We'll also be able to use that diamond core to do the geotechnical logging and geotechnical work in preparation for mine planning. We'll also use some of those boreholes for water monitoring. We will set them up as being water monitoring bores so that we can then add that information to our list. And then we will also, further in the year, we'll also infill the rest of the deposit so we have the entire deposit at the indicated status, which means that we'll be set up ready to look at doing a PEA towards the end of the year. All of that can be done within the time frame we're planning. Now, there is some potential for expansion to the north, and we have to investigate that, which we will do. And we will also be looking to see if there is an opportunity to add other resources on the other side of the river to this account as well. There is some other outcrop there. Now, what I also want to explain to you is that the Lilyvale deposit sits basically on that blue line on the western side of the picture. That has a resource of over 400 million tonnes, and the plan that Richmond Vanadium has for that is based on a 20-year mine life on 80 million tonnes. Well, we've got 200. And so one of the things we're trying to find out early this year is how many tonnes do we really need before we too can join the rest of the company next door on a journey towards production. And I think it's not that far away. Okay, so here's our advanced drill targets. Runnymede, Flinders River. Flinders River, as you can see, that's the one with the red background. That's a radiometric anomaly. And that's not to say this is got any uranium in it. It certainly has minor amounts, very uncaring amounts, but we certainly do have some great vanadium there. So that's why it's a useful tool for us. And you'll also see the Runnymede prospect up here. Some of that drilling is sort of a little bit patchy. That's because that's historic work that was done just to basically put their toe in the water to find out if there was going to be any reasonable grades there. And guess what? It's so consistent up through there that's why we have this view that the whole belt and all the other drilling around us in our neighbours, it all comes up to be about the same amount. So we're very confident that we will be able to expand the resource when we need to, and we will do some of that expansion later on this year. Upcoming milestones. Well, as I've mentioned, we got our metallurgical study and additional drilling, but let's just take a look at this. So the catalyst for this year, so the stage 1 Cambridge deposit metallurgical test work is underway. We're looking to do that now, and we'll have the results of that in the next few months because it takes some time, as you're all aware, to get metallurgical work down this path. The stage 2 met work, is planned with that diamond drilling, and that will give us a flow sheet. That's the key piece of information we need for this project, is the flow sheet. As I indicated before, we'll get geotechnical and hydrological data from it. And in addition to that, we'll also commence doing our environmental work, because that's often the things that slows people down. But the good thing is our friends next door at the Lilydale deposit have already done a lot of this work, and we'll be using the same consultant to do ours. So there's another plus for us. Thank you very much to Richmond Vanadium. We will do the infill, initiate some drilling at Flinders and Runnymede to bolster our resource, and then we'll do the upgrade on the Cambridge resource to measured status. And then by the end of the year, we expect to have our PEA completed. So it's a pretty rapid time frame, but we're certainly keen that we'll get it there. Okay, quickly, our capital structure. It sits there. What I want to point out to you here is that our neighbour, Richmond Vanadium, their market cap is about 40 million Canadian dollars, where ours is 5. So there's actually quite a difference between the two companies just based on that. So Currie Rose is a bit of a bargain. And the other thing with respect to that is I should point out that we've got a lot of really good investors that came in our last capital raise, and we've got about $2 million in the bank. So we're in position to do the work we need this year without too much trouble. So the investment highlights: it's an expansive sedimentary. So it's sedimentary vanadium in the project. It's not within magnetite, so we don't have the same difficulty of liberating the material from another metal. Central Queensland, the vanadium hub, with great infrastructure and really great government support. Our resource speaks for itself. There's 200 million tonnes, of which 61 million tonnes is in the indicated status, and it's upgradable based on the met work that we've had done earlier. Then the extensions, again, I can't stress enough that we're basically the eastern extension of the Lilydale deposit, and the Lilydale deposit is in pre-feasibility and feasibility for that matter, and they've already issued their terms of reference to the government to get a mining permit. So that's actually another plus in our feather in our cap. So there is substantial exploration data available to us, and we will be working on that material and increasing our database. And what we will also be doing is understanding our location in terms of railway access, water access, power access, and building up our environmental footprint so that we're in a position to advance this project. And in fact, our aim is to try and catch up to our neighbours as soon as possible. So vanadium is building momentum. It's increasing in demand and supply, and Currie Rose is well positioned to be in the vanadium redox flow battery supply chain through our project at Cambridge. And with that, I'd like to thank you for your attention. I will be at the PDAC this year, and if anyone would like to meet up, I'd be quite happy to meet up with you there. But certainly there's also one-on-one available for a further follow-up if you so desire. And I look forward to hearing from you in due course. Thank you very much. Thanks very much. There's still a few minutes left for questions, and I note that there are a couple of questions on the board on the submissions here. Let me just look at the first one. I guess in respect to the market being hot for nickel, cobalt, and all the other metals, I think what's important to realise is that vanadium fits a different niche, and I'll give you a really good example. Let's just say that you're a utility, and a government-owned utility, and your people are using lots of renewable energy, which means that your revenue's down. So then you have to start reducing the number of and the amount of maintenance you're doing on your existing infrastructure. So what's happening in a lot of places that I know is that this is a real event. So what people are doing is they're looking to install redox flow batteries um, rather than lithium batteries because of the fact that they are able to surge and because they can and are a lot cleaner and more and recyclable. And so putting them in is a way of getting around some of the pitfalls of the other battery space. So I think it's just about getting the message out there that vanadium redox flow batteries are not competing in the same space as the other batteries. They're actually filling in a niche that is quite unique to them and quite a different scale. On the second question I see there, asking about drilling, what will happen with Flinders and Runnymede is that we'll end up with increasing our footprint and building our package so that we can then look to high grade potentially some of our areas to try and increase our grade, and also it means we also can then add to our inventory, and then there's an opportunity for us to look at processing some of this in a more rapid space and increasing our output because there'll be plenty of tons to actually put together. So the new prospects that we will be drilling will of course be a little bit further away from the railway line, with the exception of Silver Hills, which is actually closer. So we'll be spending a fair bit of time working out some of those logistics as we go through. But basically, with respect to that, we're in a really good shape. Another question I see here is that we've said we're looking to be PA later this year. We will have, as I explained in the presentation, we will have all the met work we need. We will have all of the environment work we need, preliminary data. We'll have all the mine information we need in terms of geotech, and we'll be able to do a pit shell and also have water monitoring, so we'll know what to expect in that respect. So I'm pretty confident that by the end of the year we should have all that data together, and as a result of that, we should be well on track. The last question I have here is on the neighbouring Lilydale project owned by Richmond. The interesting thing about that is I haven't spoken to them about that in many respects, because what I need to know for my shareholders is what the value of our assets are, and at this point in time I'm not exactly sure if that's the case. So it's time for me to wrap up now, and I'd like to thank you again for your time, and I look forward to hearing from you. And please, by all means, thank you very much, and go to one-on-one if you'd like to hear more about the Currie Rose and the